My name is Calliope. Truth be told, I'm not particularly fond of my name or my personality. People often tell me I'm pretty intense for a woman. Because of this, I was constantly butting heads with people at work and frequently found myself in hot water with my boss. One day, 5 years into my career, I was drowning in paperwork and had no choice but to work late. Finally, when I managed to catch a breather, I checked the clock. It was just past 11 p.m. Wow, it's late. I need to head home. I saved my work, shut down my computer, packed my bag, straightened my chair, and left the office. On my way home, I took a detour to a park nearby. As I sat on a bench, I looked up and noticed the full moon brilliantly illuminating the night sky. Wow, what a beautiful moon!
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Huh? Startled by the sudden response, I glanced to my side and saw someone sitting next to me, apparently reacting to my mutterings. When I hesitated to reply, he looked at me and grinned.
Working late, huh?
Yeah, I said. For some reason, his face felt reassuring, even though I was pretty sure we'd never met before. Just then, he stood up and said,
It's getting late. Are you okay with heading home this late?
Startled, I checked my watch. It was 11:40 p.m. Yikes, I gotta go. As I started running, he waved goodbye. I looked back a few times, but he was gone. That was how I met my now husband, Zeppelin. A few months had passed since that mysterious encounter. I was yearning to see him again, enveloped as he was in an intriguing aura. But as time ticked away, a month, then another, it seemed our paths would never cross. Just when I started thinking we might never meet again, out of the blue, I got called into the boss's office. Was I in trouble? I wondered, a bit nervous. When I arrived, I saw a familiar face. Ah, it's you!
Hello again.
Mr. President, what's going on here?
He's the son of my mentor. He came by to return something you dropped.
The president said. Dropped something?
Your employee ID. You lost it, didn't you?
Yes, I did. To be honest, I had no memory of losing it, but I agreed to keep the conversation flowing. Then the guy who was standing next to the president asked,
Could we talk privately?
He motioned for the president to leave the room. I'd prefer after work if that's all right. I replied and left the president's office. Once work was over, he was waiting for me outside the building.
Thanks for earlier.
He greeted me. I thought for a moment about ignoring him, but given the president had introduced us, I decided to engage. About earlier?
Thank you for playing along,
he said. So, what did you want to talk about?
Do you know any good restaurants? Would you like to go to one together?
Sure. Normally, I would never accept such an invitation, but this time I inexplicably agreed. We went to a restaurant he was proud of, one his friend ran. It was simple but had high-quality ingredients. I had to admit, it was delicious. After we finished eating, and while sipping our after-dinner coffee, he started talking again.
My name is Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, is it?
Yes, it's a rather unusual name for this time, isn't it?
Well, my name is Calliope, so...
I know.
Huh?
You see, your president, as I mentioned earlier, is an acquaintance of my dad. He's also very supportive.
Yeah, he's that kind of person.
Exactly. So he's been teasing me about my name forever, but I never minded. Recently, he said he met someone interesting at the induction ceremony.
Interesting person?
It's you, Calliope. According to the president, two people with unique names. It's a perfect match.
And so?
As I heard about you over and over, I became intrigued and asked if we could meet. And here we are.
He kept the conversation flowing, talking about his hobbies, how he spends his weekends, and before I knew it, we had plans for our next meeting. On the way out of the restaurant, he offered to walk me part of the way home. He mentioned a movie he wanted to see, so we decided to make that our next outing. Time flew whenever I talked to him, and it was always such a blast. You sure know a lot, Zeppelin.
Not really. Most of it comes from my sister.
He always said. I started thinking it might be nice to meet his sister someday. And so, after several years of dating and 5 years into my job, he proposed to me at that very first restaurant. And just like that, Zeppelin and I became husband and wife. Needless to say, we both laughed when we saw our unique names, Calliope and Zeppelin, written in the spaces for wife and husband on our marriage certificate. After our wedding, I was introduced to his family at a gathering at his parents' home. The sister-in-law I had never met before was also there during our wedding ceremony. As soon as she heard my name, she seemed surprised, but overall, she left a good impression. From now on, please take good care of Zeppelin, haha. Sure.
Come visit us sometimes.
You built your own house before me, Zeppelin. You're so cheeky, haha. My first impression of Marcia, my sister-in-law, was that she was cheerful and easygoing. A little intense, but not a bad person. Turns out that was just her public face. Ever since Zeppelin and I got married and moved into our new house, she started dropping by almost daily without notice. I quit my job after getting married. This didn't sit well with Marcia. You're living a luxurious life on Zeppelin's money, she'd say. And if you're just staying at home, at least be a proper host. Dealing with her became increasingly stressful. To cope, I started pretending I was not home every 3 visits. Yet the visits and the stress didn't decrease. Do you think she hates me?
I don't think so.
But the harassment continued and my health finally broke down. I ended up in the hospital. Zeppelin did confront her, but her response made no sense. Why shouldn't I, when Calliope has so much more despite that weird name? Zeppelin only apologized.
Sorry.
While I was in the hospital, I asked my husband to discreetly find out why my sister-in-law seemed to have a problem with me. My husband said,
Got it.
And by the time I was discharged, we finally understood why she had been giving me a hard time.
Do you really want to know?
Yes, tell me.
She was jealous that we had a lavish wedding. She wanted to make your life stressful so you wouldn't feel happier.
Wow, really?
I'm so sorry.
Enough with the apologies. I'll get my revenge on her. I wanted to get along, but if she's not interested, oh well.
Don't do anything crazy, okay?
Without responding to my husband's words, I just grinned and focused on getting ready to leave the hospital. My sister-in-law, driven by jealousy, had been giving me a hard time. It was such a shame because I had a great relationship with my in-laws. Well, it is what it is. I reached out to Dad, who I'd heard was her direct supervisor when we got married, and asked for his assistance. Dad was more than willing to help, and so I diligently moved ahead with my plans, all in preparation for a moment that was bound to come. About a year after my hospitalization due to stress, sister-in-law's wedding discussion surfaced. As expected, she asked my dad to give a speech at her wedding. Dad declined just as I had advised him to. I thanked my dad and decided that neither we nor our parents would attend her wedding. Word somehow got out that my dad wasn't attending, and it spread like wildfire through sister-in-law's workplace. As a result, many of her coworkers refused to attend, saying, "If her boss isn't going, then neither are we." Sister-in-law had planned to invite about 100 people, including coworkers, but now her side of the venue was practically empty. She faced backlash not just from her groom, but also from his family. Sister-in-law was visibly pale. In a panic, she called me, but I left a voice message saying, "Congratulations on your wedding. We are traveling and will get back to you once we return." My dad covered the trip costs as a wedding gift he didn't have to give to sister-in-law. Haha, thanks, Dad. When we returned, I headed to my in-laws to drop off souvenirs, and lo and behold, sister-in-law was standing at the front door. From the car, she looked like she was possessed. When I pointed her out to my husband saying, "Hey, isn't that sister-in-law?" he suggested,
"Should we turn back?"
I decided to proceed. "Hi, sister-in-law. This is not a high situation. Congratulations on your wedding."
"Congratulations."
"Congratulations? Are you kidding me? Your father, who was supposed to give a speech, suddenly backed out. And because you guys didn't show up, half the seats at the venue were empty. It was an absolute disaster of a ceremony. Make it up right now." Hearing my sister-in-law erupt in anger like this, my husband stepped in saying,
"It's not Calliope's fault, you know."
Hearing that, sister-in-law snapped. "Zeppelin, you better keep your mouth shut." Fed up, I yelled back, "Are you kidding me? You should be the one compensating me for my hospitalization due to stress from your harassment." "Well, I have medical reports to prove it, so be my guest if you want to take this further." "That's because I was envious of you. You had everything I wanted." "I heard your wedding was called off halfway." "Yes, it was supposed to be a special day." Sister-in-law starts crying as she says this. I can't help but feel guilty and think to myself, I'm the one who should be crying here, while staring at sister-in-law. Then my husband, who has been watching the whole time, joins the conversation.
"Sis,
"What is it?"
I'm sorry about the wedding. That was overboard on my part. But what you did to Calliope is even worse. She's hospitalized. You could have put her life at risk."
"Look,
You reap what you sow. Be kind to others, and they'll be kind to you. Be cruel, and you'll get it back."
I didn't do anything wrong. I absolutely didn't. I decided to make an offer to sister-in-law. I thought I'd give her one last chance. "Sister-in-law, what now?" "If you change how you act and what you say to me, I'll make amends for the wedding fiasco. How does that sound?" You showed up uninvited, rummaged through our stuff, complained about what was prepared for you, and spoke ill of others. I want you to fix that." "Okay, but..."
"Sis?"
"Fine, I'll be more careful. I'm sorry." I'll talk to Dad then." Sister-in-law looked at me with her tear-streaked face, showing a glimmer of regret. I'm not thinking of this as revenge, but she promised to be careful, so let's see how it goes. A few months later, sister-in-law and I, having reconciled for now, decide to redo her wedding, thanks to my arrangements. We rent a small church through a friend of mine. Sister-in-law was fussing about her plain wedding dress, but she shut up when I said, "Should we call it off? Haha." The ceremony was the most beautiful one I've ever seen. Sister-in-law seemed to enjoy herself, and happily showed off her wedding dress to our parents. Of course, my dad gave the wedding speech. I appreciate your cooperation in resolving our differences, and I'm happy you agreed to take this on. Dad took the stage and, gripping the microphone, said this to sister-in-law.
Today is a blessed day, and I want to sincerely thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend Marcia and her spouse's wedding ceremony. Believe it or not, this is actually our second time around, a do-over of the previous ceremony. Despite this, I'm incredibly grateful to all of you who've shown up to celebrate with us.
Dad's speech covered a range of topics, offering insights into sister-in-law, and it was a wonderful speech. He concluded with,
Charity begins at home. I offer these words to her. Always act with a heart of service. In the end, your good deeds will return to you.
Sister-in-law nodded repeatedly, crying. And so, sister-in-law's second wedding concluded perfectly. Among the guests were some who had attended the first one, and they agreed this ceremony was much better. I might want to get married here, we heard people say. Sister-in-law seemed genuinely pleased that everyone thought her wedding was absolutely wonderful. I found myself sincerely hoping for a lifetime filled with happiness for the newlyweds, and felt reassured about having a positive relationship with sister-in-law moving forward. Once again, congratulations, sister-in-law. May you be happy forever. I softly whispered these words of celebration. Whether she heard them or not as she made her rounds, sister-in-law remained smiling from ear to ear. They seemed to float away with the balloons in the clear blue sky. It's a secret I'll keep from the somewhat tired-looking sister-in-law after the ceremony, but I was truly moved by her beautiful appearance in her wedding dress and the heartfelt ceremony in a sacred place.